Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 823, Gary's here and we've got lots to talk about. He's got another EV interview which is coming up later in the show. We'll be talking Windows 11. We had the launch last week, some of the news and feedback from the launch last week and people's comments. We've got a first update to Windows 11. We're talking about that. Some interesting smart home stuff on Windows 11 and the Alexa apps, EV news and lots more. So let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, and Richard's out on his travels today.
Yeah.
He's actually flying somewhere.
It's a bit radical, isn't it?
Yeah. We got a grumpy message off him saying it's worse than it used to be travelling, so I'm not sure he's enjoying the flying experience under the way we are now, but at least he's got to go to an in-person event.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. I mean, I've been to a couple of in-person events recently, so it's good to see that starting to pick up.
Yeah.
Especially I'm in that industry, and it really does help.
Yes.
When things start getting live events.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I went to a concert a couple of weeks ago, and that was really nice to get out to a proper show.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a few bits and pieces to talk about tonight. We've got the Windows 11 launch we can reflect on. There's some bits of news I've got from the Microsoft world. You've got another interview with us for us, so we can talk about that. And we'll talk about some reaction to the interview from last week as well, which was very positive. I did enjoy that one. It's still I've seen some of the hardware reviews coming out for the new Surface devices as well. Nothing on the Duo yet because that's another week or so, isn't it? That's due. I think that's the 21st or 21st. I think that's due. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So a week on from the Windows 11 launch. Interesting to see some of the reviews on there. Most of it's positive. I did see the usual grumpy people, whinging about various things with Windows 11. In some respects, I don't think Microsoft can win, can they? Not, and I don't mean particularly Richard. He's our resident soapboxer, but he wasn't upset about Windows 11. He just was wanting more people to be able to get at it, which we can talk about actually how you can do that. But I just see people criticize Microsoft for changing stuff, and then they get criticized for not changing things, and then
they can't win. They really can't win.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the same with software generally. People don't like change, so any change you make is criticized. But then there's other people who only want change and want something different every time, and it's very difficult. Yeah.
So I think most of the reviews came out fairly positive. I know some people don't like the simplification of Windows start menu, but again, it's this kind of double standards almost thing you've seen. I've seen the same people say, I don't like the new start menu, it's too simple, preferred over live tiles, and they were the same people that have been pronouncing live tiles dead for the last 4 years, saying that no one uses live tiles. And it's the same people saying that as also saying, I want, bring back live tiles. So
I think it's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, for us that have been using it for a while, it wasn't really a new experience last week. I didn't actually change it on any devices. So the ones that I already had it on. So I already had it on my Surface Laptop 2, which is on beta, which I'm going to switch to release preview. Which is probably a good tip actually for anybody now. Now is a very good time to switch to release preview if you're on Windows 11 on a machine that you don't necessarily want to keep wiping and potentially having to reinstall. So for my Surface Go, which is my dev channel machine, I'm quite happy to have that. Quite happy to potentially have that wiped and have to reinstall Windows, but for this one I don't. So while we were on that initial testing just before release, then I was quite happy with it on the beta channel. But I think I might go to release preview now and just get some of the updates, the app updates and things like that as they come down. But overall, I think the Windows 11 reviews have been fairly positive. I think yes, there is a lot more for Microsoft to do with Windows 11 and the start menu to bring back some features and perhaps to improve it in that way. But there's still work for them to do. But it's better than where we were. I would say, you know, so I like the look and feel of it.
Yeah, it's definitely better than where we were. It's grown on me, although I'm not using it on most of my devices still, because I haven't got many devices which can use it. Although maybe I have.
Yeah, because that was one of the criticisms, and I think quite rightly, Richard especially was upset about, you know, we've got the great operating system, and why can't we have more people being able to use it? Microsoft restricted it down to fairly recent processors, 8th gen Intel processors, and TPM2. But they did actually say that, and there is an actual, I'll have to remember to include the link. There is a Microsoft article on how to install Windows 11 on the unsupported devices. It's from the Microsoft Support Forum, so it's not a hack that that's coming from, you know, some third party, which there are some available. But this is actually from Microsoft, and I tested this and I can confirm it works. I've not documented it yet, but basically it just involves getting the media tools. So Microsoft have a download page. You can get the and I've got this on the site. You can download the media creation tool. Yeah. You can download an ISO. There's a few. To put the ISO on a USB drive, put the USB drive in my Surface Pro 4, which isn't supported. The PC checker tool says it's not supported, and that's due to the processor. Windows updates, if you go in there, it says you're not supported. You can stay on Windows 10. But I put the ISO in. I mounted the ISO. It allowed me to start the installer off. It says your device is not supported, and gives you the option just to continue past that and install Windows 11. So I bailed out of it in the end because I just wanted to test it, because I wanted to keep a Windows 10 machine around. But yeah, it works. So it does say it'll be unsupported. You may not receive updates, and I'm going to this, as we've had the first Windows 11 update to the release channels. I'll find this. I'll be able to test this theory tomorrow when I've got a device that's in the office that I can test. But I suspect that we will get cumulative upgrades for these devices. So if you install on an unsupported machine, then you'll get this latest .240 update. But what you won't get is a new build. So when Windows 11 22H2 comes out next year, you won't get that build. It won't install. You could probably get it again from a download media, install it as an in-place upgrade, and do it that way. But I think you will get the cumulative upgrades. But I'll find out that when I've had a bit more time to play, and I'll report back next week, because I've got my Raspberry Pi 400, which is exactly in this state. Although that's the ARM version, we'll see. But anyway, I'm going to test it and we'll see. What I did install is I did do a clean install on my Lumia 950 XL, and that actually got the latest update as well, the 194 update. So we'll see whether it picks up this new one now, because that's unsupported as well. So we'll see. So there is definitely a way of being able to install Windows 11 if you want to. What state you're in is just to be clarified, but I suspect it will be you'll just get all the updates, and then when there's a major build released, then you won't get that build update. You'll have to get a new ISO for that, which again makes sense. So we shall see. I'll actually get my I'll get my Lumia out and give that a test as well while we're at it. But yeah, it's. Before I get out of my phone. Oh, I've left it downstairs. That's a shame. Oh. Yeah, but anyway, it's good. It's good that Microsoft gives you the option of installing it through the ISO. So Gary, you can install it on one of the devices if you want to.
I may do. Yeah, I may well do.
Yeah,
I'd like to have it. It'd be good. It'd be good to have.
Yeah. I think I've got two devices of my own personal devices that are left running Windows 10, which is my music production one, which I don't like messing with because of the audio drivers, and the Surface Pro 4. So I'm just going to keep a couple of Windows 10 devices. But even my old Lenovo Yoga book. I've got, but that's run on Dev Channel actually. So that's got the latest build. When we didn't get we got a Dev build last week, didn't we? But that was on Monday as we recorded on Tuesday. So I think we talked about that one last week. We have got an update though, as I mentioned before. We've got the first update to Windows 11 since the release, which because it's Patch Tuesday today, isn't it?
It is, yes. Not that, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as we record on Patch Tuesday. So we had the first update to Windows 11, which takes the build to 22.0.0.258. There's only one sort of fix in there, but yeah, Microsoft are on with the Windows 11, so it's in release now. So it gets the regular updates. I'm surprised we didn't get this through Windows Insiders first, maybe last week, and then released this week. But I thought that's kind of how it should work.
That's how it's supposed to work, isn't it?
Yeah. So this update that's out is a release one, but it's hit. I've got it here on my device running on the release preview channel and beta channel. So it's going out across all the channels, and yeah, it's the first one. But like I said, it's a minor change in there. But yeah, first one of many Windows 11 updates to come. Was it 10 years of support or something like that?
Yeah.
Some of the Windows 11 news as well. Something we didn't talk about a couple of weeks ago, but I actually spotted on a few screenshots. I think Microsoft had a couple of videos a couple of screenshots and videos that they were demonstrating things on an event. And there's a new version of a media player that they use.
Oh yes, yeah, I saw this. It looks quite cool. We'll have to read that book.
Yeah, so it's called Media Player as well. So now whether it's a temporary placeholder, I was looking at it and I couldn't decide whether it was an update to Groove Music, an update to Movies and TV, or an update to Windows Media Player, because it had elements of all three.
Of them, yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see how Microsoft do that, because to be fair, they have been going through the old and overlapping shipping applications and sort of merging them and updating the UI. So we had the old snipping tool and we had Snip and Sketch. That was kind of merged, renamed, so back into one. We've had other applications where they've had a facelift, even like Paint has been done, and all the different apps. So I wondered whether Paint is probably a good example of just an old Win32 application that's got a new look and feel to it. So I wondered whether it was Windows Media Player. Could it be that Windows Media Player is going to come back and we'll have a 2021 version of Windows Media Player, or it could be just Groove gets just called Media Player, but and gets a new look and feel, or it could be a totally new thing that Microsoft bring out. It would be nice to have a combined media player. I think for the use on Windows and call it Windows Media Player. And whether it has all the support for metadata and MP3 files, whether really does it need to be able to do that anymore? Because that was the thing that Windows Media Player was good for, is it would scan your local machine or your UPnP server and bring back all the album artwork. But whether people do that anymore, I think people still do. But a lot of it, not everybody uses streaming services, but it's also useful for playing local content that you downloaded and local videos and things like that. So we'll see. We might get a new one. There's nothing from Microsoft yet, but it would be great to see that. Because I even seen that there's an updated Notepad UI as well. That was another from someone at Microsoft had a screenshot, and you could tell that the Notepad was an updated application as well. Because all these applications have been decoupled from the OS now, haven't they? So that they come down separately. So they can do whatever they want in terms of releasing updates. But it'd be nice to see Windows Media Player triumphantly returning. Especially if it's an update of the one that, the Windows 7 one, which was an update of the Well, the XP one, wasn't it? Was that's the one you could buy, or you could download skins for it, wasn't it? The XP one.
Yeah, you could.
Do you remember all those different skins? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and like we mentioned on the Zune show, even the Zune, the first shipping version of the Zune software was a skinned version of Windows Media Player. So anyway, nice to see some updated media apps. It would be good for them to get a bit of attention because they all got that sort of Windows 8, Windows 10 look. So it'd be nice to get them updated. And the other thing I mentioned about Windows 11 as well, of updated apps. Did you see that the Windows subsystems for Linux, one of Richard's favourite things, now is you can get it via the Windows 11 store rather than having to get it through add remove features in Windows.
You can, yeah. And the other thing is it supports sound as well, which is rather good.
Right. And it supports graphics as well, doesn't it? The GUI in there.
But I mean, it's good. And all those funky music stuff you can do on Linux, you could do now with the WSL2. So yeah, really impressive.
Yeah. So again, that means so the way it used to work was that you had to go into add remove features, isn't it, in Windows 11 or Windows 10 it was. Pick the box, let it install, then you had to go to the store and download it and download the actual Linux distribution that you wanted on top of that. Now it's all just through the store, and it means that WSL can be updated via the store rather than being updated through Windows Update, which gives them a lot more flexibility and setup of that as well. So and I think it just makes it more accessible now as well. Just you can just go through to the store, and that's what they're trying to do, I think, with the new store, isn't it? Just make everything go through there. It doesn't matter what platform or what kind of application is, it's all there.
Something else I just wanted to quickly mention on Windows. This is not Windows 11 specific, but as we're talking about apps, have you noticed they've updated the Alexa app? I mean, we've spoken about the Alexa app you can have.
I've not used that for some time, actually.
Well, one of the things I've added to it now is you've actually now got the ability to have show mode on it. So you can turn your Windows device into a giant Echo Show, which is quite nice, actually.
Yeah, that's quite good, because that would be great on my yoga book, which I don't use very often.
Yeah,
and just set it up as a nice show.
Yeah, and it does work. I mean, it seems it hasn't got some of the nice new features because I don't think we've mentioned the new Alexa device, but may have done. But the new Alexa devices with the big screen version, that's got these widgets, which I think you mentioned on a few shows back. You can plug in. I've not seen them on this new show mode on the when you're running on the PC version of it, but yeah, I mean, if they added those, it'd be really cool. It would be really good to do that. So yeah, quite impressive.
I'll have to
I haven't quite worked out is how you get out of it once you're in it.
Yeah, I'll have to give that a try. Funny, I had to switch off my Arlo camera skill on my Echo, on the kitchen, on all the Echoes, because everybody was sick of the announcements when there was motion detected front door, which I rather liked and I thought was great. So when there's motion at the front door, you get the announcement, but the rest of the family just didn't like it. But I thought it was a nice secure system.
You can leave that on but turn that off, if you see what I mean.
Yes, exactly.
Leave the skill running, but you can turn the announcement off.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm planning to do, but because everybody was bugging me about it, right? I'm disabling the skill then. So I disabled the skill.
I mean, one thing I'm kind of stuck on now. If any listeners have got an answer to this, I'd love to hear it. I've got the problem with I'm basically setting a routine to trigger when my doorbell is rung. It's not actually a doorbell; it's a motion sensor. So someone approaches the door, I get a flash of a light on my little hue color light, and it rings the doorbell, and then I've got the routine to show the camera for that thing on my Echo Show. It's behind me, which you can't see it because of the fascinating text things behind me, but it is behind me. But the problem is when it does that, it says in a loud voice, "Okay." because it's gone to that camera, and I want to be able to switch to that camera without it saying okay. So if anybody's got a clever way of doing that, let me know, because that'd be nice. And I know I can turn it into the short response mode or brief mode, but I don't want to do that for the rest of the devices, and it's a shame that they don't allow you to do that for individual devices. But having said that, I think this show mode is definitely a step forward, and it basically means your PC can now do anything that an Echo device could do. So yeah, pretty cool.
It might be a good way to repurpose an old machine that you can't get Windows 11 running on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still wanted, the ultimate thing for me was, so when the Arlo camera at the front door picks up motion, it just shows it on the it doesn't have to announce it can just show it on the kitchen one.
Well, you can do that. That's basically what I'm doing with this routine. So what I've got is I've got a trigger on the routine which says so I'm not sure if Arlo allow you to do this, actually thinking about it, but most of the doorbells, you can actually use the doorbell as a trigger for a routine. I think that, because I think you can do that. And then when you do that, you can actually it's funny enough saying that my doorbell's just gone off. So my camera will be going, and you'll probably hear it say okay in a minute. And what you just do is add on the bottom of it is a custom command saying show the camera, and then it will actually show the camera, which is quite good. And then you can do that with the announcement silenced, so you just get whatever you want to say, plays the sound, and then it'll bring up the camera. So yeah, that works quite well.
So that's what I need to try and do then. Yeah,
it works. But other than the fact it says okay when it does it. So at the moment I've got the device behind me muted, so it doesn't keep annoying me. so I've got it set so the doorbell rings on one device, the camera shows on another device. So you can do all this sort of stuff, but you shouldn't have to be that complicated. There should be easier ways to turn some of these pieces off. But I mean, I have to say it's improved an awful lot over time. It's really, really, really got a lot better than it was. But and some of the stuff they're starting to work on. Have you noticed the other thing I was going to say on Alexa? Have you noticed the noise detection is now available? So there's snoring, babies crying, breaking.
Oh no, I haven't tried.
Yeah, so that's all now available. So you can set that up to be triggered. And work with things like that.
Oh, that's quite good. And I think some of the issues that I've had is with false positives. The fact that it detects motion when it's a cat, or sometimes a car has triggered it going past. And if it was an actual person, then I think the alerts would be okay. But to get the person detection, you have to pay a monthly subscription, and I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, I avoid that by obviously having my own system for motion detection.
Yeah.
Which I mentioned before, I use Blue Iris, which is great, and they've now got all this AI stuff, and I've actually got a really powerful AI engine just running on my Windows desktop, which is incredible. I think we've now got to that stage that I can do full-blown facial and vehicle detection actually on that basis. I mean, I can basically see if it's a member of the family coming to the door, it tells me before it alerts me. So, and that actually, I can then set that up so it doesn't actually ring the doorbell in that case. So it's pretty impressive.
I just need to. I'll have a play, see if I can optimize my routines. When I get the notification on my Android Wear or Samsung Watch, so it's not that I don't get the notifications, but I think it would be nice if it just automatically switched the camera on, I'll see if I can get that to do with your suggestion there.
Yeah, it does work. I mean, it works really well. It has to be the last command in the routine. So it's got to be a custom one. I mean, I think there are some skills which will show the cameras automatically, but I haven't got around to trying those. But I say if anybody out there's got a better suggestion, let me know, because I'd like to try it.
Yeah. So would I. Yes, so I'm gonna have a go with the updated app on my one of my tablets and see how.
I think it's really cool for that. It does mean you can have a pretty giant Echo Show device.
Yeah,
I'm currently while I'm talking to you, I'm currently running it on the 32-inch widescreen screen I've got. That's a big Echo Show. Yeah.
Now, sort of, moving away from Windows 11, and there was one of the Microsoft story that I saw today that was quite interesting. We talked about security a few times on here. Did you see that Microsoft today explained how they'd thwarted, or one of their Azure customers was hit with a denial of service attack, but they mitigated it and didn't get, Microsoft did, so there was no outage occurred. But did you see how much data was on that?
No, I didn't actually. So
there was 2.4 terabytes per second at one Azure customer. I think they said there was it lasted for about 10 minutes, and they had 70,000 sources. So if you were thinking of manually blocking the IP addresses on your on your router, then think again, because you're not going to manually block 70,000 sources.
No, that's a lot of sources.
Yeah, these were from different. This was from the Asia Pacific region. Microsoft detected them, and it was a European customer. And it's thought to be one of the largest denial of service attacks, bigger than an Amazon Web Services attack in June last year, which was 2.3 terabytes per second. But yeah, to imagine that is just a lot of data, and I think Microsoft's obviously putting this, showing their scalability, how you can get attacked with, or you're not vulnerable if you're using their service. But that is a hell of a lot of data. And I guess most services would have just keeled over and died with that. So I thought that was quite interesting. So if you wondering whether Azure is scalable, then there you go. I think that's a pretty much of a success story. Because we had a few outages last week.
The show mode on Alexa, just while I was thinking, you can actually set it to act as a screensaver effectively for the PC.
Right. Oh, that's quite good.
Yeah.
I like the idea of that. Especially if I've got a spare monitor over here, I could hook an old machine up to it, and that can because you can play music through it and everything, can't you? Spotify or your Amazon Music or whatever you're using.
Yeah, you got all the normal stuff is there. It's just, it's just they didn't used to have the show mode, but that's really good.
I'll have to give that a try. Now, you got some feedback from the interview we had last week on the show.
Oh yes, incredibly positive feedback. I mean, one comment I had was, but I quite like this. This is from I don't think he actually gave his name, but it's TMC64, who said this is so refreshing. I should see if I can get the exact wording on this, because I don't want to misquote the guy. But basically, he was just so impressed with the interview and how open Ian had been. Ian, the CEO of Osprey, about the whole questions and answers. So what was it? So refreshing. A CEO obviously knows his subject, is open, doesn't answer difficult questions, and is really interesting to listen to. More like this, please. And we just got a load of feedback about. There's a couple of people who really picked up on the disability side of things, which was mentioned, the accessibility, the fact that Ian had sort of basically said that they need government regulation out there to actually make it work. Someone's actually tweeted Grant Shapps, the transport minister, with the interview, saying they should listen to it to get answers. So yeah, but it was generally good. And I learned so much from that interview. Things I just didn't think about. I mean, this whole thing about canopies, because I've been a huge opponent of actually having something over the top of a charger, because when you go to a petrol station, you don't have to queue in the rain to get your petrol. You get a canopy open and works. But as Ian pointed out, I mean, in some of these places where they're putting chargers, I mean, that works if you're in the equivalent of a forecourt, but most of the time you don't want to be charging in the equivalent of a forecourt. You want to charge where you've gone somewhere. As Ian said, if you've gone to cinema or you've gone to the pub or whatever, you want to charge while you're there. And I think that whole point about the canopies potentially attracting the wrong sort of people was a really interesting one. I mean, I still want to see canopies, and maybe the answer is to cover the whole car parks in canopies and put solar roofs on them so you can power lots and lots of cars. But yeah, I mean that's definitely something I thought was very interesting in there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it was a good point, that, because yeah, if you've got the nice covered spot in a massive car park and it's raining, it is going to attract people to hang about there, and that's kind of the last thing you want.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the thing you want when you're charging, but you don't want to be able to be covered. But yeah, because I get fed up with it in the rain. I mean, the other thing with covering during the rain is it actually protects the equipment a bit. And no end of touch screens I've come across which no longer work after it's been raining. Sitting on the ABP chargers, which I want to use, that seems to be a big problem. I think maybe the answer is not to have a full-blown canopy. Maybe just have a small canopy over the bit where you're charging. So it's a one-person canopy, so you're not going to get people gathering there. Maybe that's an answer. I mean, Ian was very good, I thought. I mean, some of the things about car parking and that, which were just really interesting. And hopefully that charger we mentioned, the Wolverhampton one, will come online very shortly. I think they've said by the end of this month. So their first little mini hub they got with these wonderful Chem Power chargers. And I love those Chem Power chargers. The idea that, because one of the big problems with charging EVs, and this is something which I think people who haven't had an EV don't necessarily get and haven't, because it is different to the way things you think of with refueling. Basically, when you refuel something normal, a car with petrol, you keep it flows at the same speed all the way. When you charge a car, it doesn't flow with electricity. It doesn't flow into the battery constantly. It's like filling a mobile phone up. When you start charging a mobile phone, if it's low charge, it'll charge pretty rapidly at the start, and then it'll slow right down as it gets towards the end. And this isn't a problem for EVs. It really isn't. If you're charging overnight, you won't notice this at all. But when you're doing fast charging out in the wild, there are, if you charge beyond, it depends on the car, but if you charge beyond 80% of the real battery size, and not all manufacturers tell you what the real battery size is, but then you're going to start slowing down. I've heard this described in many ways. I quite like the theatre analogy or the cinema analogy. When you first go into a cinema and you haven't got allocated seats, it's really easy to find a seat. There's going to be seats everywhere, but as it fills up, there's going to be lots of not so many seats, and you've got to hunt for them. So you're going to slow down getting to them, and that's basically it's like it's trying to find a space to get in and charge up. Also, the pack starts to heat up, which also slows things down there. So that means basically there's virtually all cars have a charge curve where they start charging quite high up and then they start dropping off. And the Chem Power chargers take advantage of this. So if I turn up and I'm charging, I've got to say 60% charge on my car, and you finally get yourself an EV and you turn up and plug it on the charger next to me. Now under normal circumstances, we'd both be taking the same drain for the system, and but what will happen to Chem Power? It will say, oh, hang on a second, Gary doesn't need this much charge, and Ian needs more charge. So let's give Ian more charge here, because he's satisfied with a low charge, and he can take that. And it can spread over those charges a much reduced input from the grid. So that cuts Ian's costs down, because Ian from Osprey, because he's got a lot smaller input voltage coming into his or input charge rate coming into his system. You can have a smaller substation, lots of real advantages, because you're not actually going to necessarily have all cars getting all the same speed at all the same time, and that makes so much sense. It really does. And it should simplify the systems as well. It really everything seems to be really clever. So I want to try one, make sure it works well, but I think it's going to be a huge improvement, and it looks like a very simple system to use as well, which is a big thing. Simplicity is huge. But yeah, I thought that was a really good look at what's going on with the rapid charging network in the UK, as opposed to the home style and destination style charging slow. And tonight's interview is much more about that, so we'll come on to that later. But Joel from Co-Charge is on tonight, and he's basically talking about solving the problem where you can't have a charger at home if you've got a flat or whatever. And if you've got a flat or something like that, but you've got good neighbours, or good friends nearby who happen to have a drive and happen to have a charger, then maybe you can share their charger. But it's a very cleverly put together system he's got for that. And I thought it was well worth a listen to him on that as well. So that'll be coming up a bit later. But yeah, no, I thought the interview last week was really good. A lot of people seem to really have enjoyed that. We've got more interviews coming up. I recorded about 12, I think, when I was fully charged. So they'll be coming up. Don't want to bombard the non-EV viewers and listeners with too much content, but it's good stuff, and there's some really interesting stuff. One I particularly like, which will come up a couple of weeks' time, is the guy who has had an electric van for a very long time in the Lake District and delivers all around the Lake District using this electric van, which you'd think would be a challenge because early electric vans did not have very much range, and the Lake District didn't have very many chargers for a very long time. It's a lot better now, but it's an interesting story. It's an interesting story.
I was thinking of a milk float, going around the dales.
It's not quite lakes. But yeah, I mean, nowadays, and some of the vans and things you can get now would be very easily to be able to cope with that sort of thing. And certainly not an issue to do stuff. So yeah, all good stuff.
Hopefully next week. Next week should be Surface Duo 2 week, but that will be, I think that's on Wednesday. That's on Thursday, isn't it? So we won't have one of those to talk about for next week, but we may have the week after. You never know. I'd like to get my hands on one of the Surface Pro 8s, but I don't want to order one. Not ready to order one yet, but I think maybe I'll have a trip to John Lewis, because I think they're starting to ship now, aren't they? But the reviews have been pretty good on those. I've seen the reviews for the Pro 8 and for the laptop Studio been very, very good. I think most of the reviews generally say brilliant devices, expensive but brilliant devices.
Yeah, right. That's what I've heard.
yeah, I think so. So I won't be trying one of them just yet. We'll have to wait and see. I'm just trying to persuade my son. He wants to get. He's thinking of get a tablet. So I keep saying get a Surface Go 3, and then I can review it before he starts using it.
We've got to use your twin somehow. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's about time that they normally get my devices. I pass them down. It's about time it came the other way, really. Right. Well, so. Tell us about tonight's interview.
Yeah, so tonight's interview is with Joel Teague. I think that's from Co-Charger. As I said, all about how to charge your car at home if you haven't got a charger by using someone else's home, basically. Before we just go over to the interview, Gary, where can we find you? You can find me at Gary WMA on Twitter. Also, obviously, Fascinating Tech. And last week, I was on Take It EV, which is a really good podcast if you're into your EVs. It's a bit more depth than we go into. Talking about my iPace for about an hour and a half, which was really, really interesting and great from Take It EV podcast. So I'll send you the link in so you can put it in the show notes. But it's definitely well worth a listen if people are really interested in what's going on in the EV world and are looking perhaps at an iPace. Want to see if that's an option for them, because we go into pretty much total depth on it. it's a good thorough interview. Excellent. Right, well, we should be back same time, same place next week with more news and more interviews. So we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks for joining us. Do you want to introduce yourself to start with? Sure.
I'm Joel Teague. I'm the CEO of Co-Charger.
And I've been hearing a lot about Co-Charger recently. Do you want to explain what Co-Charger actually is?
Well, Co-Charger is a platform for community charging. It's the only dedicated platform for it. And what it does is it helps to accelerate the transition to EVs by enabling people who can't have a charger at home to charge at a neighbour's charger on a regular basis instead. So it enables the person with a charger to register as a host, make that available for weekly bookings, for a handful of their neighbours to come around once a week and charge their EVs. And the aim is to enable those neighbours to buy an EV in the first place. That's the key to it. It's not about making life easier for EV drivers, it's about creating EV drivers in the first place.
So how does that actually work? I mean, I've got a charger at home. Could I just say turn up on a day and charge?
Pretty much. It's really simple. It's a free app. And if you've got a charger in your driveway, and either you want to make some money out of the charger, because that's basically paid a lot of money for it, or if you just want to help the neighbourhood, you download the app and you set up a host account, and you say, right, I live here, I've got this type of charger, and I want this much per hour for active use of the charger, and a minimum charge. And one of your neighbours, say 3 streets down, has got a terraced house or has got a rented house and they don't want to put a charger in, they would set up a Chargee account and say, here's where I live, here's what car I've got, here's what size of battery it is. And it does the matchmaking, obviously. It comes up with a little map, and you can then the Chargee can send you a message saying, I'm thinking of getting an EV. Can I charge overnight every Tuesday or whatever it is they want to do? Because once a week, as we know, is adequate these days. And they can request a booking, and that can be a one-off. More likely, it's going to be a weekly. You can book a whole year in advance. And then the app looks after the scheduling. It also sends reminders to both of you, so you know not to park next to your charger, and they know not to go and look around for a free parking space. And they can turn up, and the app looks after. It basically works by taking a picture of the dash to prove where your battery percentage was when you plugged in. And obviously the app knows all the maths about the charger and the size of the battery, and it can work out how long was that charge going on for. So the idea is that they can turn up, they walk home, go to bed, is the usual, or go off and do their day or whatever they want to do, just like having a home charger, and they'll come and unplug. Usually they unplug long after it's fully charged, and they only pay for the amount of time that charger was running for.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so they get all the benefits. They get the convenience, they get the dependability, and they get the affordability of having a home charger, just with a slightly longer walk to their front door.
So one of the concerns I've heard about sharing chargers before is that, well, leave my charger on, or someone else can come in and plug in.
This is the key difference. It's very important for us to keep emphasising what we don't do. There are other charger sharing platforms out there, very good ones like Zap Home and Book My Charge, really good one. For those, it's a distance model. It's a different stranger every time. You've got to be there for it. Yeah. Community charging, it's the same few neighbours every time. Right. So so in my case, my charger's inside my garage, so my neighbours know where the key is. If they were that sort of neighbour, they'd nick my lawnmower long ago. So yeah, it's a very different thing. Security is much easier to do when you're dealing with friends and neighbours than if you're just a public charge point.
Yeah, I can understand that. So you mentioned the fact of earning some money off this. Is that done through your app as well?
Yeah. So when a host registers, they have to register a bank account. You have to prove your identity. Obviously, it has to be very secure. We do a lot on security. When a chargee registers, you register a payment card, and at the end of each session, the host gets the figures to say, is this okay? And they can query it if they want. Very few people will ever do, but they can see how it worked out. And as soon as they hit confirm, it takes the payment from the chargee. It takes a 12% fee, 10% plus VAT, for us to run the scheme, and the rest goes into the account for the host. Nice and simple. And yeah, it's a decent amount of money. It's early days. Yeah, most people have only got one chargee so far, but once you get up to about 4, it's going to be about £1,000 a year.
Okay,
it's pretty good. It'll pay for your charger pretty quickly.
That's an interesting, tempting subject.
It is, and the average pricing's great because we've worked out the average is about 173 per hour, I think, for a 7.4 kilowatt charger, which is about 23 pence per kilowatt hour. The great thing is that chargee gets all the benefits of having a home charger, but they haven't had to pay for a charger. So the chargee effectively pays less for charging their car than the host does for the first couple of years. So it works out. It's basically you're taking a piece of kit that costs the best part of £1,000 that has a utilisation of less than 5%, and you're upping that 5% to 10, 15, 20, 25. And it just works for everybody because of that.
Yeah, and as you say, most people don't charge more than once a week, so I certainly don't. No.
And the key thing is there's 500,000 of them. Yeah. Not doing anything for everything but, 5 hours a week? So, yeah, it's up the utilisation of the kit we've got. Ironically, rather than it being a competition for public chargers, it's actually adding to their customer base. So this is why we work really nicely with people like GridServe, because we create customers for those public chargers.
It's really good. I mean, it's certainly something I would benefit from up until recently, because I was living in a flat, so I didn't have a charger, and I used to use the shopping centre chargers quite regularly, doing a similar thing.
Got through a lot of novels.
Yeah. It's a long time. Well, I actually did a lot of shopping, which was probably not such a good thing. But yeah, I think this is a really good idea. So is take-up been good?
It's been mad. We've not come from a big corporate background. Yeah. This is very much a community thing. We're an ethical company. We're going for B Corporation status. And we really only started pushing for users in November last year, and we've just got, I think we've got 4,300 users already.
Wow.
We're on course to be, it's unfair to compare us to public networks because obviously they've got the hardware to build, but if you do, we're on course to be the biggest network in the country early next year, which is crazy, but then that's what happens if it's the sharing economy, that's what you can do with it. So yeah, it's going very, very well. I think we're coming up towards 2,000 hosts, which is just fantastic. And it's just some people do it for the money, some people do it to help their neighbours, some people do it for the environment, some people do it for all those things, but it seems to have really,
I think that's definitely a key thing with anything like this. It's the traction, because you've got traction now, so it makes it worthwhile signing up.
Yeah, and what's really exciting is we've done this on startup money. We haven't really hit the accelerator yet. We've got a crowd fund which has just been extended to the 20th on the FX website, and that money is going to be used to properly advertise. We haven't even started yet, and we've done that. So we've grown, I think, over 30% a month this year on pretty much startup money. So what we're going to do with that funding is quite exciting.
Right, so it does sound really exciting. I think what we need to do is follow this up with you and get you back on the show in probably 3 or 4 months' time, and we can do a longer segment and actually go a bit more detail. But it's fantastic. I love what you're doing.
Thanks very much.
So where do people find out about this if they want to find out?
Okay, we can go to co-charger.com, co-charger.com, or just download the app. It's very easy. It's got the intro screens to show you how to use it. Just give it a go. It doesn't cost anything. There's no commitment. We just made it as easy as possible. Just give it a go.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for your time today. And it's a busy show, so you need to get
fully charged outside. Brilliant.
It is
lovely.
Amazing, isn't it? Great stuff. Thank you ever so much.